Is a prime Obafemi Martins faster than these players? Thierry Henry.
I'm faster than him.
Kyle Walker.
Way faster than him.
R9.
I'm faster than him. He knows that.
Kylian Mbappe.
Way faster.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Way faster.
Gareth Bale.
Way faster. You forgot about me? Wow.
If you had no idea who this guy was and you hear him say all that for the first time, you might think he's delusional. But on the other hand, for anyone who even remotely knows the name Obafemi Martins, you know that when it comes to speed, this guy was the real deal. But first, let me tell you a personal story. Back in 2005, as a youngster, I witnessed a prime Adriano on TV. And this was back in the day when many believed he really was the next king of Brazil and the heir to Ronaldo Fenomeno. In Inter Milan, while Adriano was the big man scoring all those insane goals, he was playing right alongside another beast of a striker. A guy who simply no defender could keep up with, Obafemi Martins. At the time, I was actually more impressed with his iconic celebration than with his speed. But it never fully occurred to me just how insanely fast he really was, until I played a little old game on my PlayStation 2 called Pro Evolution Soccer. And as I became more obsessed with football and football games in general, I slowly came to the realization that there was literally no other player in any football game that was more broken than Obafemi Martins. He was consistently the only player with 99 speed and acceleration. Ever since then, for nearly a solid decade up until around FIFA 15, every time I would build a squad, you're damn right that I would buy Obafemi Martins. And honestly, after he left the Premier League, I only really kept up with him and his career, like what team he was or what league he was playing in, because of those different FIFA cards over the years. It never ceased to amaze me how, despite in his mid-30s playing in the MLS, Martins could still outrun everyone on the pitch. And it wasn't until I came across a recent interview he did with ESPN that I really started to wonder, whatever happened to Obafemi Martins? He always had that insane speed and was a truly class player in Serie A and the Premier League. So why exactly did the fastest footballer of his generation, and possibly even the fastest footballer of all time, because I'm not counting Usain Bolt, never quite become a superstar? Well, to answer this question, we're going to have to look at a quite controversial and potentially sensitive topic. Because despite being scouted for his local Nigerian club, FC Ebidai, it would only be a single year until he was discovered and signed for Italian side Reggiana at the age of 16. The very following year, Reggiana would offer the teenager to Inter Milan. So basically, in a span of less than 2 years, Obafemi Martins as a teenager would go from Nigeria to Serie C all the way to a big Italian club like Inter Milan. And he hadn't even scored a single goal so far in his time in Italy. At the time, not many people really thought much of it. He was an insanely athletic forward who had a lot of potential and seemed worth a try. It was looking like his skills were certainly more developed than the others in the youth academy. But it wouldn't be until several years later, Obafemi Martins' age was publicly in question. Various online forums would begin raising their suspicions, which led to media outlets and football officials casting doubt on his actual birth date, as even local Nigerians were suggesting the inconsistencies in the documentation of his age. And the suspicions were further fueled by his physique and maturity levels during his youth career. There was a theory that his early success might have been a result of physical advantage, regardless of his insane natural physical ability. In African football, age discrepancies have been a common problem for years, with players in the past trying to appear younger than they truly are in professional settings. But whether if it was true or not, the truth is the age scandal would later affect him in his career, as doubts about his age might have affected his opportunities for big clubs in Europe. But we'll talk more about that later when we eventually get there. In his first season for Inter, Martins was definitely beginning to impress. He would start off in their youth team, going on to score 23 goals, which would earn him a spot in the first team at the age of 18. And when he would finally make his official debut in the 2002-2003 season, he would do it in spectacular fashion, scoring a goal against Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League of all places, then going on to do his iconic somersault celebration. And UEFA would even feature his celebration in commercials and advertising for the Champions League next season. Later that season, the teenage Obafemi Martins would even play in the Champions League semi-final against their rivals AC Milan, where Martins himself would score Inter's only goal. Despite the loss, it looked like Martins had an incredibly bright future ahead of him, and he would only continue to improve and show his ability in Serie A. He'd go from 5 goal contributions in 10 matches during his first season to 15 goal contributions in 37 matches at just 19 years old. Aside from the exceptional speed, agility, and athleticism, Martins was actually quite small for a striker, standing at 170 centimeters or around 5'6", which for his position is quite undersized, but his overwhelming physicality more than made up for it. Martins wasn't just a quote-unquote speed merchant, as the kids say these days, but he genuinely had great striking, especially from distance. When it came to one-on-ones, he knew how to finish calmly, but his speed was just so amazing that it basically overshadowed every other attribute he had as a striker. Plus, despite the smaller stature, the man knew how to leap and had some of the most acrobatic athleticism of any footballer in the world. And as far as speed goes, he wasn't just fast off the ball, but the guy was incredibly quick while dribbling as well. But easily his most phenomenal was the 2004-05 season, where Martins would have an incredible 28 goal contributions in 46 matches, being absolutely crucial in helping Inter win the Coppa Italia, with 6 goals in the tournament and a hat-trick to secure his first piece of major silverware in Italy. At that moment, Inter would offer Martins a long-term contract until 2010. But despite how electrifying and entertaining he was, Martins didn't exactly fit with Italian football. His game was built on rapid counterattacks, but Serie A was a league known for its slow and tactical nature. But still, seeing the number of goals he was able to score shows you that his speed was just too much to handle, no matter how deep the defenses sat. But the bigger problem was that in Inter, the main striker would slowly start to become Adriano, and Martins would more and more come off the bench or play as a second striker. For a guy as flashy as him with his skill sets, he wanted to be the sole man up top. Perhaps he was okay taking a step back and playing a slightly smaller role. However, everything changed when Inter would sign Zlatan Ibrahimovic, bringing even more doubt in Martins' role for the club. And thus, after 1 Serie A title, 2 Coppa Italias, and 1 Italian Super Cup, Obafemi Martins would request a move from the Italian side, hoping to find a club where he could be the main option. And some might say that this was one of the biggest blunders of his career. And it would be Newcastle that came calling, hoping that Martins could fill the immense void left by the retiring Alan Shearer, as they would entrust him with the club's cherished number 9. However, on his Premier League debut against Aston Villa, he would suffer a severe knee injury. Newcastle fans had suddenly given up all hope, but in January 14, he would make a return, and he would do it in spectacular fashion. Martins would strike a stunning 20-yard rocket in a 3-2 victory against Tottenham. His shot was clocked by Sky Sports at a speed of 135 kilometers an hour, making it unofficially one of the top 10 hardest shots ever recorded in football. But although his speed would recover after the knee injury, he would lose a bit of that dribbling and ball control at those top speeds. In Newcastle, well, they were an average club at best. Obafemi Martins would end the season with a decent 17 goal contributions in 43 matches, being part of the squad that won Newcastle its last piece of silverware, the Intertoto Cup, all the way back in 2006. Leading Newcastle in goals scored for all competitions. Chelsea would eventually try and make a move for him, but Newcastle didn't want to let him go. And unfortunately, a storm of managerial issues which had very questionable formations, like pushing Martins to the bench to play an older Michael Owen, would eventually lead to the club getting relegated. His time at Newcastle was also the most injury-riddled of his career, and Martins, seemingly still being at his prime around the age of 26, decided that he didn't want to play in the championship and tried to make a move to another top European club. But it was during his last few seasons at Newcastle where doubts about his age would really start to surface. In fact, Newcastle fans who very much loved him would even make a joking chant saying, 21 or 28, Obafemi Martins. And other big clubs and management were definitely aware of the allegations. Martins would score a decent 35 goals in 104 appearances for Newcastle. But instead of another top European club, Martins would find himself in Bundesliga, playing for VfL Wolfsburg, and he would have a decent 13 goal contributions in 37 matches. But because of all the age allegations, other clubs started to see him as a liability. He should have been around 27 at this time, and his physicality and speed definitely seemed like it. But the damage to his reputation meant that no other big club was willing to give him another chance. And for me personally, it was around this time that I really stopped paying attention to Martins. Not hearing his name again for quite some time. He would head to the Russian Premier League, have a brief loan in Birmingham City, and even had a short stint in La Liga playing for Levante, where he had a very respectable 10-goal contributions in 21 matches. But it wasn't until he went to the MLS, playing for Seattle Sounders, that I was hearing of Obafemi Martins' name once more. And in the MLS, he became an absolute legend. In the 2013-2014 season, he would have 19 goals and 15 assists in 37 matches, still being as fast as ever and leaving everyone in the dust. And even the next season, he would have 21 goal contributions in 25 matches. Though only a brief time in the MLS, Obafemi Martins became one of the most popular players and one of the biggest legends in the league, as MLS fans absolutely loved him. And as he got older, he would move to the Chinese Super League, spending the last 5 years of his career trying to collect as big of a bag as possible. He would eventually retire at 2020, nearly at the age of 37. But even through all the injuries he suffered, his speed was still insane. Though he never became a superstar, and although his age was in question, Martin scored goals wherever he went, becoming a fan favorite and always entertaining the crowd. Maybe his career might have been a little different if he decided to stay at Inter Milan or decided to play a single year of championship football. But really, that's all in the past. Because if one thing's for sure, Martins will always be remembered as potentially the fastest footballer of all time.